action.
What's up guys, Caylen here from Modern Day Sniper, and I have a new 308 build that I decided to throw a coat of Krylon on, and I'm going to walk you through that paint process. I know there's probably a bazillion videos on the internet that cover painting rifles, but this is just what I do, and we want to throw something up here for you guys that are in the law enforcement community, in the sniper community or something like that, to get an idea of how we do this and really how easy it is. It's not very difficult, and it's not very intimidating. So let's get started. Okay, real quick, prepping your rifle to paint. So as you guys can see, I took all the parts apart. I pulled the muzzle device off, I pulled the bolt out, I pulled the trigger off, I pulled obviously the optic off, and I took apart the KRG Whiskey 3 chassis. I basically took the butt pad off. Anything that I don't want to paint, I want to take off. And the reason that I want to do that is I don't want to have to spend a whole lot of time masking. Masking is the most time consuming part of this process, and so just to eliminate all that stuff, just pull the stuff off the rifle that you don't want painted, so that way you don't have to mask it. So the other thing that you want to do is make sure that it's super clean, and what I mean by super clean is clean your parts with a degreaser of some sort. I just use either carb cleaner or gun degreaser, anything that will cut oil and cut grease and get the metal to as bare finish as possible. If you really wanted to get nitty gritty about it, look, this isn't a Cerakote job and I'm not getting paid for this, and this isn't for a customer, this is just for me. But if you wanted to get crazy, you could take a tack cloth that you'd find in a paint supply store and wipe all the parts down with a tack cloth. Okay, real quick, let's talk about materials. This is a Krylon job, right? So just straight up Krylon. These camouflage branded Krylon paints are really nice because they offer the earth tone finishes. It's matte, and it's been around for a long time. The other thing that you're going to notice that I have here is a matte finish, and I'm going to throw a coat of matte finish over everything after we're done, just because that's going to give me one more added layer of protection on the paint job to make sure that it's going to be more durable. So how are we actually going to apply the paint? We're going to throw a baseline coat down on all the parts, and then we're going to apply a camouflage pattern. And I'm just kind of like playing around with some artistic stuff with camouflage. I've got a couple of sponges here that you can buy from an arts and crafts store, Michael's or Hobby Lobby, whatever. I got a piece of cardboard or a couple pieces of cardboard here to spray paint on, and I'll show you guys how I do that. And I'm just going to use this really thick, heavy nap paint roller and see what kind of application I get from that. So the sky's the limit. If you don't have any of this stuff, a wadded up t-shirt will get the same kind of effects as a sponge, and you can use the wadded up t-shirt or rag just like we will the sponge, and that's coming up and I'll show you here in a minute. All right, so I decided to paint the barreled action and the bolt black because black is the original gangster for tactical colors. We're gonna just shake this up. We're gonna throw a little test spray on this cardboard. The technique for throwing paint is you want to do several really light, almost misty coats. You don't want to fill in the entire surface on one pass. The paint really doesn't stick that way. Paint sticks as it atomizes, and when it atomizes, the molecules will then flow together and create that nice smooth surface without runs. It's just a technique. We want to get the paint going before we get to the part and keep a nice straight pattern, and then keep the paint going after we hit the part and then let off on the nozzle. That's the best way to paint. So I'm going to go ahead and get a light base coat on this, on both this barreled action and the bolt, and then we'll go from there. So now we're going to move over to the chassis. This is what we're gonna do our camouflage job on. And so for this, I'm gonna start with a baseline coat of khaki, and we're gonna do the exact same thing that we did on that. We're gonna throw a bunch of really light coats on this to make sure that we get a good solid base of khaki, and then we're gonna put our camouflage pattern on top of that. Okay guys, so now that we got our base coat on, over here on the barrel of action, I threw on that matte layer of protection, that matte color. So that's done. Now we're gonna move on to the stock, and I'm gonna use a bunch of different color patterns to create some depth of the camouflage pattern. And really this is just up to your imagination. Whatever it is that you wanna do, whatever color palettes that you wanna use, totally up to you. We're gonna use the khaki as a base, and then I'm gonna try to darken it up a little bit so that it's more of like a brownish green color using some sponges and using the paint roller technique to see what kind of feel that we get. And I'm gonna start off by splotching it with some shots of paint to get some spots on there, and then we're going to use the sponges to give those splotches some depth. All right, so we got some olive on there. We're gonna throw some brown, and really what we're trying to do is darken up the khaki. And then if we wanna bring more khaki out, we're gonna use the sponge to get the khaki to come out and get the lighter colors. All right guys, so we got our splotches on there. Now it's time to kind of start creating the depth with the pattern. And I'm gonna use a piece of cardboard here as a palette, and I'm gonna take my colors and I'm gonna spray onto the palette. I'm gonna use my sponges to kind of create a splotch pattern and bring some depth into the camouflage. So we're gonna start off here with some olive, get a good bit of paint on the palette. All right guys, so we got our parts painted up, camouflage pattern on there, and now it's time to get this rifle reassembled. Okay guys, so wrapping this video up, you guys can see that painting a rifle is not that big of a deal. It just takes a little bit of attention to detail, and really the details are in the prep work and making sure that the surfaces are super clean, free of grease and dirt, and making sure that you mask off everything that you don't want painted. And it's easier to disassemble the things that you don't want painted because masking is really time consuming. Now on the bolt raceway, where the bolt actually slides back and forth within the action, there is some paint in there. And even in Cerakote jobs, you're gonna have Cerakote in there. And all you gotta do is let that work out. Eventually after, I don't know, maybe 20 or 50 rounds, that paint is gonna work itself back down to bare metal and get you the smooth bolt operation that you had before you started. If you don't want paint on your bolt raceways, doesn't matter. Mask it off or stuff paper towels in there and get creative with your mask job. It's not that hard to do. This one, I'm gonna throw some lube on the bolt and work it back and forth, and it's already gonna clean up. It's not a big deal. So the other thing that you wanna pay attention to is don't really hose down your rails with paint. The more paint that you put on there, that's building up surface area, and it's basically gonna alter the shape of your 1913 rail system. And what I mean by alter is that it's gonna build up a surface layer of paint, and that's just another layer that your mount is gonna have to grip when you put the scope on there. So just be a little bit more gentle with the paint application on the rails. And outside of that, guys, make sure that you look at all the paint materials that you have. I try to use the sponge as well as the roller. The roller didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I didn't get the look I was looking for. So I just took those sponges that you can get from any hobby shop or like Hobby Lobby or Michael's, wherever you can go to get art supplies. So with that being said, the rifle's all complete. We're gonna take it out. We're gonna go to work this week in Montana for the Mountain State Tactical Officers Association annual meetings, where Phil and I are going to do an advanced course and a basic course for those guys. And this is the rifle that I'm gonna take with me. I'm gonna take this thing out to the range, do a little bit of quick load development on it, getting ready for the course. And there you have it. So if you guys want to send us pictures of your paint jobs, make sure you tag us, Modern Day Sniper. Use hashtags, hashtag Modern Day Sniper, hashtag Modern Day Rifleman, and let's see what your paint jobs come out looking like. So we want to see them too. With that being said, guys, we're all set. We're wrapped up. Take it easy. Keep your face on the gun, and we'll see you next time.